Well, hello there, everyone. It's October. You know what that means. That's right. Why, it's the 2221st anniversary of the Battle of Zama, where Hannibal Barca and the Carthaginian army were defeated by Roman legions under Scipio Africanus, ending the Second Punic War. Wait a minute. Tolkien, you fraud! I always knew there was something fishy about those elephants.
They're too f***ing sexy.
But no, I hope everyone's having a great month. I sure am. I mean, I get to talk to you lovely people. If you're watching this video on the day that it's uploaded, which is October 19th, 2020, then there is also another anniversary that I want to celebrate with all of you. Today is the 10-year anniversary of the game that single-handedly saved me from losing my mind these past few months. Fallout New Vegas. Now, I know. What else is there more to say about New Vegas? It's been talked about to death the past few years and is often regarded as the best Fallout and one of the best games ever made. And to that I say, not much, but no single playthrough of New Vegas is the same, and everyone has different experiences playing it. So I'd like to share my time with it and why I love this game so much. As far as structure goes, I don't think I'm going to go over the story a whole lot, but I will briefly summarize it. The main point of this video is to share my experiences and to encourage people who haven't played it to try it out, and to get people back into it who may not have touched it in a while. Also, as a side note, I'm going to be showing footage from a few different characters, so if there's a lot of jumping around, that's why. So, without further ado, this is Fallout New Vegas. To kick things off, the story starts with a bang, literally, as you, the courier, are shot in the head by this fella in a checkered suit named Benny. See, as a courier, your job basically has you being a post-apocalyptic delivery boy running across the wasteland delivering various items. Somehow, you miraculously live to find out that Benny took what you were supposed to be delivering, a mysterious platinum poker chip that somehow holds the future of what will happen to New Vegas in the years to come. So, as one pissed-off shot-in-the-head mailman, it's your job to track down Benny, find the platinum chip, and decide the fate of New Vegas. Now that's a brief, and I mean brief, summary of the story. I don't want to go too much into specific spoilers, but there are a lot of revelations, twists and turns, and decisions for you as a player to make. And I want to go over as little as possible to keep the story fresh if you've never played it before. It took me a long time for me to actually get into it at first. I have an embarrassing confession to make. I first played this game back in 2015, and boy did I ruin it for myself. For some reason, I just wanted to go through it as fast as I could. I think because Fallout 4 was coming out soon, and boy was that a mistake. This is not the type of game that is fun to speedrun. It shines best when you take your time and really get to experience what it has to offer. And what it does have to offer is drastically different from any other 3D Fallout game that's out there. The first big difference is the setting. Now, I've never played the first two Fallout games, but I know that they take place on the West Coast in California. However, I think it's safe to say that the majority of people, including myself, were introduced to Fallout through Bethesda's Fallout 3. Every other game, being 3, 4, and 76, all take place on the East Coast. To play a game that takes place on the West Coast feels like a breath of fresh air and an interesting change of setting. But the game doesn't take place just anywhere in the West. It takes place in the Mojave Desert. We go from the crowded metropolis setting that was established in 3 and 4 to a hot, dry, and barren wasteland. That is, until you get to New Vegas itself. New Vegas is bright and full of colors and shines like a royal jewel amongst the desolate darkness of the Mojave. It's a place that's coveted by the people. It's where you can make it big, relish in your sins, and make your dreams come true. New Vegas and its surrounding slums are popping with life. There are people drunk in the streets, thieves, gamblers, hookers, and most notably of all, kids trying to eat a giant rat.
Thanks, mister.
It's beautiful. All of these elements coalesce to help establish the tone. And speaking of the tone, this is one that I appreciate more than any other Fallout game. First of all, the music. My god, the music is perfect for this game. I'm gonna go on record and say that every single song on the radio here is a banger. Jingle, jangle, jingle, Johnny Guitar. It's all so good. While the other Fallouts have some great songs too, it's sad to say that some of them have gotten stale over the years because they always reuse a handful of them in every single game. But here, they are all fresh. The majority of the music that's played is classic swing and country, and it fits perfectly. And I don't even like country all that much, but here, it's just so immersive. Walking around the desert listening to Radio New Vegas makes you feel like you're in a badass western or something. Another element that adds to how great this game feels is the orange tint. Fallout 3 has this puke green diarrhea tin that always takes me out of it. It just isn't that great to look at. But in New Vegas, there's this sort of orangish brown tin. It makes the environment look very quaint and rustic, and straight out of Breaking Bad. All of these elements come together so well that it changes New Vegas from a great game that you play to a game that you experience. Speaking of experiences, why should you have to experience the wasteland alone? There are tons of interesting characters to meet out there. Too many to talk about here, but I will go over a few of my favorites. For starters, Benny, the guy that shoots you in the head in the beginning. He is a charming, backstabbing son of a bitch, and man do I love him. For all intents and purposes, he's a villain, but your interactions with him change depending on how you want the story to develop, but I'll come back to this later. You spend a good chunk of the game just trying to find this guy, but when you finally do, his reaction to seeing you again is just priceless.
What in the goddamn?
Another interesting character that you might run into is the King. That's right, the King. Well, not really, but he sure is respected like one around Freeside, which is one of the slums around New Vegas. He runs a gang called, yeah, you guessed it, the Kings, which dedicate themselves to upholding Freeside as a community. As far as looks go, they remind me of a bunch of no-good troublemaking greasers. They look rough, but they act in the best interest for their people, except for Pacer. Someone who you might meet early on in your travels is Boone, a serious ex-soldier who now spends his time as a guard watching over a town called Novak. Some people say that he's really edgy, and he is, but he's that way for a reason. Without going into too much spoilers, he blames himself for the death of his wife and has PTSD from his days as a sniper. I really want to say more about him, but I find his story to be so interesting that it would be better if you discovered it for yourself. He tells you that if you can find out the person who sold his wife into slavery, he'll join you on your travels. It turns out that this sweet old lady had the bill of sale for his wife in her safe. Jesus, I guess she wasn't so sweet after all.
You'll get no sympathy from me.
I swear, the followers that you can have in this game are incredible. My absolute favorite character in any Fallout game is this guy right here. His name is Arcade Gannon, and he works as a doctor for the Followers of the Apocalypse, which is a humanitarian group dedicated to helping those in need. I don't really know why he's my favorite character. It might be because he's a sarcastic nerd with a dry sense of humor, but he also looks like my friend Darren. And Anderson Cooper. I guess I like him for a lot of reasons. The main reason, though, is because he never fails to make me laugh, and because he has a very interesting background that I'll touch on later. Lastly, as far as characters go, there is Raul, a Mexican ghoul who is as quick with his gun just as much as he is with the repair tool. He's even voiced by Danny Trejo, who must have recorded his lines over Twitter or something because they are a lot quieter than the rest of the other characters.
Machete don't tweet.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Hey, wait a minute! But who couldn't use a gunslinging vaquero on their journeys? Many, if not most of the people you meet in the Wastes, ally themselves to one of the many factions that have a standing in the Mojave. Just like with the characters, there are a bunch of different factions, 31 in the base game actually, but I'll just touch on the major ones. First and foremost is the New California Republic, or the NCR. They're what seems like the only kind of sensible government system that there is, and are struggling to increase their military standing in the Mojave. This is actually the same military that Boone belonged to. Their main goal is to grow their republic as far as they can and to restore order in the US. The biggest threat to their expansion is another group called Caesar's Legion. The Legion is ruled by, of course, Caesar, who also wants to bring an order to the Mojave, only theirs is more of a brutal dictatorship type. I mean, these people are nuts. For them, it's Halloween every day, and their favorite pastimes are burning towns, torture, and being general poopy heads. Another faction that many of you might know is the Brotherhood of Steel, but their role in this game is minimal compared to the others. In Fallout 3 and 4, they're one of the main presences in the Wasteland, but here, they've taken a sort of backseat role. On my first playthrough, I didn't even know they were in the game until I was near the end. This is another reason why New Vegas stands out in the franchise. It takes what you know about Fallout and shifts it. The big bad force from the other games is now this small little group that lives underground and wants to be as inconspicuous as possible. This is my favorite representation of the Brotherhood than any other Fallout. They still uphold the values of the Brotherhood, but they definitely aren't as psychotic as the Brotherhood from Fallout 4, and they're actually willing to work with other groups toward a common goal. Another faction I want to mention is one that is entirely missable if you don't meet the right requirements. The Enclave are actually in this game. The Enclave are the main antagonistic force in Fallout 3 and are crucial to the Fallout lore. So if they're so crucial, then why are they barely here? Well, the Enclave here aren't actually current members at all, but are old and retired people who are just the remaining remnants. I love how small the Brotherhood and Enclave are here. It humanizes them, as we come to find out that many of their members don't necessarily believe in what they fight for, but just have to do it because it's their job and it's the only thing they know how to do. But speaking of old, our next faction is the Boomers! And just like our real life equivalent, they're fragile, slow to accept new ideas, and know how to operate heavy artillery. But in all seriousness, the Boomers are cool. They live isolated from the rest of New Vegas in an old airfield and have tons of explosive firepower. If you work hard, you can convince them to help you towards your cause, whatever it may be, or you can just wipe them out to make a boomer-free New Vegas.
Okay, Boomer.
The last faction I want to mention is the Great Khans. The Khans are a bunch of raiders and chem junkies, and much like the Boomers, you can also convince them to help you decide the fate of New Vegas. They bring a nice balance to show that not all the factions are good. Some can be bad, terrible even, but you can still have favorable interactions with them. And also, their leader's name is Papa Khan, which is just so precious. So I mentioned that the Boomers and the Khans can help you, and what I mean by that is that they can help you depending on which ending you go with. The ultimate goal of the game is to decide the fate of New Vegas, and there are 4 different paths that you can take. The first is to help the NCR, the second is to support Caesar's Legion, the third is to help a character named Mr. House to make an economically strong New Vegas, and the last is to fight for an independent New Vegas. Of all the endings, the one that speaks to me the most is to support the NCR. The reason I favor this ending is that it ties into one of the more prominent themes of the game, being community and fighting for a common goal. As a representative of the NCR, you can unite and get support from the most unlikely allies. As said earlier, the Boomers and the Great Khans, but most notably, the Brotherhood of Steel and the Enclave. This blows my mind. In Fallout 3, they were at total hostilities with each other. In Fallout 4, you couldn't side with the Brotherhood without totally snubbing the Institute and the Railroad. It was their way or the highway. New Vegas, however, takes a more diplomatic and realistic approach. Enemies can put their differences aside and fight for the greater good. It's also so satisfying to see everyone come and help you during the final mission. The Great Khans emerge from the hillside to help you. The Boomers fly overhead, dropping bombs from their B-29, and the Enclave get dropped off from their vertibird, joining you on the ground below. If there was a group like Caesar's Legion in America, I'm pretty sure that everyone from all different walks of life would unite to defeat them, just like how it is here. At least I'd hope so. As far as deciding which ending you should do, there's no right or wrong answer. New Vegas doesn't tell you how to play, it shows you. Where pure gameplay is concerned, there are benefits to every ending, and also consequences. The thing is, what New Vegas emphasizes above all else is choice. You have the choice to support the NCR and crush Caesar's Legion. You have the choice to be a smooth-talking diplomat or to be a cannibalistic chem courier, and you have the choice to kill Oliver Swanwick after he wins the life lottery.
Smell that air!
I mean, the choices go all the way to the end of the game, where you can literally talk the final boss into not fighting and leaving. The only other game that I can think of where that comes even close to happening is Mass Effect. Let me know if you guys know about any other instances where you can just talk to the boss and not fight. I'd be really interested. And if the diplomatic approach isn't your style, the game gives you a ton of awesome weapons for you to play with. You have your classic Fallout weapons like the Fat Man, the Alien Blaster, and the Super Sledge, but my favorites are the more common ones. The Service Rifle, just at a quick glance, looks way better than the Assault Rifle from Fallout 4, which looks like a handheld submarine, but looks are nothing compared to how they feel. It's hard to convey why I love these weapons, aside from saying that they just feel so good. Satisfying would be an accurate word to use. The weapons here feel satisfying. It's satisfying to shoot a fiend in the head with a hunting rifle and have all of his limbs fly off in 10 different directions. Speaking of enemies, just like the other Fallouts, New Vegas offers some hard and downright scary ones. Night Stalkers are these really fast creatures that are a mix between a rattlesnake and a coyote that are hard enough to deal with one-on-one, but if they're in a group, you better have some stim packs ready. Nightkin are very similar to super mutants, except that they look like a mutated Grimace that can turn invisible. And if the Nightkin are Grimace, then Cazadors are the feeling that you get in your stomach after having Thursday brunch at McDonald's. What I mean by that, I have no idea, but these guys are every New Vegas player's bane. They're so fast that you can't outrun them and constantly jerk from left to right, making it near impossible for you to hit. If you see one, run, because that means there are about 10 more that you don't see. And then of course, there are Deathclaws, which always offer a challenge no matter what game they appear in. Most of these enemies you encounter on the various quests that you'll be doing during your travels. Now I am very impressed with this game's quest catalog. They're great ways to level up and see more of what the world has to offer, and the majority of them are fun and interesting to do. One of my favorite quests happens pretty early on, and it's called Come Fly With Me. I feel like this quest has every element of what makes this game great. It's challenging, has different paths you can take, funny, and has a great payoff and reward. You have to help a group of ghouls go on what they call the Great Journey to get to the place called the Far Beyond, where they can live a peaceful life away from the hatred from humans. You also meet this guy who's convinced that he is a ghoul, even though he's not. I guess they don't have any mirrors lying around.
What's wrong with your face?
Then you have to find some components for the rockets that will fly the ghouls where they want to go. When everything is set and ready, you launch the rockets from the control room and watch the disaster unfold right in front of you. Every time I see the rockets fly off course and hear it explode, it just cracks me up. It's sad, but hey, it was their goal and you helped them accomplish it. I would also like to very briefly mention the DLC. It's a subject that is worthy of a video of its own, but if I had to say anything about it, I would say definitely get it. It takes the things that are great like locations, enemies, weapons, quests, and expands it and adds way more to it. Also, there is an underlying story that connects them all together that makes the last DLC go out with a bang. Literally. New Vegas already feels fantastic without it, but the DLC makes the whole experience feel complete. This is just the game that I was looking for. I think that it hit especially hard because it was still so new to me. I didn't play it when it first came out, and then when I finally did, back in 2015, I rushed it. As people are being urged to stay inside now more than ever, New Vegas is a perfect game to lose yourself in. If you haven't played it yet, I really recommend that you check it out. You can find it pretty much anywhere for less than $20, and it goes on sale frequently on Steam and the Xbox store. Though my praise may have made it seem so, New Vegas isn't perfect. There are a few game-breaking bugs, and just while doing this playthrough, my game crashed twice, which is probably a new record for me. Only 2 times? Now that is lucky. I mean, it's not the game's fault that it's the way it is, and if anyone knows about the rushed development and how little time Obsidian had to actually make it, then it's understandable. What is actually here though is so good that it by far outweighs the negative technical errors. When looking at what can be improved though, the future may have some promising prospects. Microsoft just purchased Bethesda and now owns the rights to Fallout and The Elder Scrolls. This gives me hope that we might see a New Vegas 2, or at the very least, a remaster. I personally would love to see New Vegas 2, but I think a remaster would be a little more appropriate. I mean, Skyrim gets re-released every damn year, so why shouldn't New Vegas get one? They could go back and fix all the bugs and immensely change the quality of life experience. Yeah, or maybe we can even get a Halo and a Fallout crossover. This awesome picture by DHCR Core over on Instagram shows just how sick that would be. But that's just me nerding out. Either way, I'm excited about what the future has for Fallout, and more specifically, New Vegas. So that was the video for today. I really hope you enjoyed it. So now you know what I think, but as always, I'm more interested in what you guys have to say. Have you ever played New Vegas? If not, would you be interested in seeing what all the fuss is about? If you have, what is your favorite moment playing it? I would love to hear about it in the comments. Thank you for watching, stay safe, and remember, war never changes.
And so the Courier's Road came to an end, for now. In the new world of the Mojave Wasteland, fighting continued, blood was spilled, and many lived and died just as they had in the old world. Because war never changes.